Hey, this is Ryan Thiessen, and we're going to talk a little bit about the adjustments on the disc hiller when it's set up in a hill up format. The main two adjustments we have are the ability to rotate the blade for its aggressiveness, the amount of soil it moves this way, and we can also tip the blade this way to gauge how much it's going to dig into the soil. So to show you those two adjustments, first for our adjustment left to right to change its aggressiveness, there's 4 bolts on top that we just loosen with a 19 millimeter or 3/4 inch wrench. And then that allows us to adjust the angle of the blade. The further angled this way it is as we travel this way, the more soil it will throw into the row. Speed also plays an important role in how much soil, as well as depth. And those are the 3 main adjustments to moving soil laterally. The other adjustment that we have is the pitch of the blade, which we adjust using these 2 and the other 2 bolts on the other side. So we'll loosen those off. And that allows us to change the angle of the blade from being fairly straight to more tipped in. The more tipped the blade is in the hill up format, the more the blade is going to cup and dig underneath the soil. For a gentler hilling, we would normally run this a little bit straighter as shown. It'll still move soil, but it won't hook and cup in as deep. For the Vineyard Disc Hiller, when we're setting up for downhilling, there's a couple adjustments that we want to focus on. The first adjustment is making sure it's set. We have the angle adjustment this way. The further we are cupped in towards the tractor, the more aggressive the downhilling is going to be, and it also moves the leading edge of the disc hiller closer to the vines or the crops you're trying to dehill. The second and more critical adjustment we have on this is the angle adjustment this way. For downhilling specifically, when we cup the blade all the way in like this, and I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it quickly, what that allows is this leading edge here to create a very square profile relative to the roundness of the blade. So if we're downhilling in a vineyard situation when we've hilled up a lot of soil around the vines and we come in with a downhiller like this, that square profile allows us to get very close to the base of the vines and then leave a narrow strip behind after, which we can come through with the Adaptive Cultivation System, or ACS, our vineyard finger weeder, and then punch that center core out. But that's the reason this tilt-in effect is important. When running the tractor, we just want to keep an eye on the leading edge of the blade from the cab and make sure we're not getting too close to the vine and catching them. Those are the main 2 adjustments for the downhill. It's just important to make note of those angles and otherwise have success in the field. So we can see here that we've run our Vineyard Disc Hiller through the vines on this side, and it's done a good job of leaving a really big, tall, probably 10-inch tall berm here, and we can even dig through it all to try to find the soil that was there before. This one was crowned a little bit. And there's several reasons we may have done this hilling. One, here in the more northern climates, we'll do it to protect the graft on our vines over winter. But if you're in a situation where weeds have gotten out of control in your vineyard, you've been doing the handwork and you're not keeping up, you may find that doing a hilling pass and then a dehilling pass is a strategy that's going to help you quite a bit. The disc hiller itself is going to end up removing any of the weeds that were in this spot, and piling all that soil on top of what was there is going to either kill those weeds or force those weeds to use the energy that was in their root system to try to push through that soil. In that case, once you've left it for a couple of weeks, you may come through and set the disc hiller up for a dehilling pass. And we'll go over to this side of the road and show what that looks like. So in a dehilling pass here, we have a hill that was the same size as on the other side. And we've come through and we've carved that soil away and moved it out here to where you can see we've driven over it with the rear tires. When doing this in the spring here in northern climates, we want to pull that soil away from the vines so that the scion top portion of the vine isn't rooting into the soil that our rootstock is. If we've been doing this as part of a weed control pass, you can see now that we've really aggressively removed any of those problem weeds that were in about a foot wide strip either side of the vines, and we're left with the center portion that we're then able to tackle with the Adaptive Cultivation System, or ACS. In this case, when downshaving, ideally you want to get as close to the vines as possible on either side without hitting them to create as narrow of a strip as possible. This is both going to help with weed control from removing those stubborn weeds. It's also going to help with the finger weeder, or the ACS, its ability to punch through this and kick soil to the other side. The narrower you get this, the more success you'll have, both with a weed control standpoint and a removal of the hill and spring standpoint. And this just shows how much soil we're able to effectively move with the heavy Vineyard Disc Hiller.